In this video, we will learn how are deserts formed. When we think of a desert, this kind of a sandy picture comes to our mind, right? But then that's not the only desert. There are basically 4 types of deserts. The first one is hot and dry desert, which exist in the subtropical region. They exist along the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. At subtropical region, it is due to pressure differences and circulation patterns of air masses hinders the formation of clouds. And that is why there is very little rainfall on the land, which eventually causes subtropical deserts. Basically, a subtropical region is a high pressure zone. If desert is rain shadow desert. I want you to watch the video where I have explained different types of rainfall. In that, I have explained about orographic rain. So there are 2 sides of a mountain. One is the windward side and the other is the leeward side. By looking at the name, you can easily figure out that windward means the side of the mountain which faces a lot of wind. As a result, this side of the mountain faces a lot of rainfall. And leeward side is the opposite side, where it is dry and there is no wind. That means there is very little or no rainfall at all on the leeward side of a mountain. So these semi-arid and cold winter deserts are found on the leeward side of a mountain, which are also known as rain shadow deserts. When moisture hits a mountain range, it is forced to rise. As a result, the air cools and forms cloud. Because of that, it rains on the windward side of the mountain. After that, when the air moves over the mountain top and begins to descend on the other side, there is very little moisture left. That descending air warms up, making it difficult to form clouds. Hence, there is no rain on the leeward side of the mountain. So the region on the leeward side of a mountain becomes a desert. Some examples of rain shadow deserts are Mongolia's Gobi Desert, the eastern part of Western Ghats. If you look at the state of Karnataka, you will find many mini deserts which are located on the eastern side of the Western Ghats. Another example is the Sahara Desert, where the northern part of the African continent is covered with Atlas Mountains that blocks the wind from the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea. The third type of desert is coastal deserts. When cold ocean currents blow towards the shore, these winds are cold because they are in contact with cold water, and they produce a layer of fog, which is a thick cloud of tiny water droplets that are too small to fall as rain. This heavy fog moves on to the land, but the sun's heat makes them disappear during the day. Since there is no rain, the coastal region turns into a desert. Some examples of coastal desert includes the Namib Desert in southwestern Africa and Atacama Desert in Chile. Finally, we have the 4th type, that is cold and polar desert. Examples of polar desert are Antarctica, Alaska, Canada, Greenland, Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Russia. In India, we have Ladakh, which is a cold desert. Even Mongolia's Gobi Desert is a cold desert, but it is also a rain shadow desert. Patagonian Desert in Argentina is also a cold desert. Cold deserts are found in temperate regions at higher altitudes and are located at the center of the continent. Because of the low temperatures, pressure, moisture, distance from sea, and poor vegetation, precipitation is very low in these regions. So the important point that you have to remember is that all these different types of deserts have one thing in common. They lack humidity and moisture. When there is less humidity or moisture, that's when there is a shortage of rain. A desert is an area that receives very little precipitation.
The story is getting old. Modern man is rapidly exhausting the planet. Deserts are advancing, and water is becoming scarce. It all seems hopeless. And every 12 years, the world population increases by 1 billion people. Looking down on Earth from space, the scale of the destruction is astonishing. But one man has discovered how to make our deserts green and our planet healthy again. We are following cameraman and ecologist John D. Liu, who sort of happened upon the solution and has spread the word ever since. This is what you can expect.
It's possible to rehabilitate large-scale damaged ecosystems. So if we can rehabilitate large-scale damaged ecosystems, why don't we do that?
The world gets more and more complicated all the time, but the solution to fix the major problems of the world's ecosystems remains reasonably simple.
It all started in 1995 when John D. Liu, as an ordinary cameraman, got an assignment to film the lush plateau in China. He saw how the local people transformed an area almost the size of the Netherlands from a barren, exhausted desert into a large green oasis. He was baffled. From that moment on, greening deserts became his goal in life.
Great Green Wall of China. Its author is believed to be Deng Xiaoping himself. The Chinese did not wait long to initiate the project, and soon, the main legislative body of the country made a decision obliging every citizen above 11 years old to plant at least 3 poplars, eucalyptus, or any larches annually as a contribution to the common cause. Villagers are paid for planting seedlings, and in some places, the government leases private land for planting forests. Entrepreneurs grow and sell seedlings and harvest mature trees for lumber. All of this is reported to have reduced in poverty in many areas, and it definitely made some people very rich. And so, in recent decades, instead of relying on revolutionary fervor, the government used capitalism to grow trees. The largest environmental project in history involves several methods of reforestation. Rows of grass and common local trees are planted first. Along the second line, rows of drought-resistant shrubs are planted. Then in go the most resistant trees, such as poplar. Different teams are hired to plant them, and seeds are scattered from planes. Not only are professionals and volunteers involved in planting trees, but also Chinese officials, including ministers. In total, more than 500 million people partake in this noble event every year, while the number of planted trees reaches billions. At this time, the project aims to plant 100 billion trees by 2050. Obviously, new technologies made their own contribution. The Chinese now have an opportunity to plant trees not only in person, but using online platforms. Donations are collected on authorized sites, which are then used for planting. Within the past 50 years, since the beginning of reforestation, the desert finally stopped advancing. Over the past 10 years, 13 million hectares of trees have been planted to shelter the wind, covering an area the size of Greece. Although the plan has not yet been completed, the forest area in the north has increased from 5% to 13.5%, an area the size of Western Europe. Thus, the Chinese were able to save the land from the desert